If irony could heat bedrooms, I'd be sunburned by now. Instead, I'm lying here in what used to be our sanctuary, listening to Mira breathe that careful, measured rhythm that screams, "I'm pretending to sleep." 4 months of this Arctic treatment, and I'm starting to think polar bears have warmer marriages. My name is Landon Keyston, and I'm a mechanical engineer who designs HVAC systems for office buildings. The irony isn't lost on me that I spend my days making sure other people stay comfortable while my own home feels like a refrigerated morgue. At 40, I thought I'd figured out the basics of human relationships. Turns out, I was as wrong as a screen door on a submarine. Mira shifts beside me, and I catch a whiff of that expensive perfume she started wearing 3 months ago. Not the vanilla scent I bought her for Christmas, but something sharp and sophisticated that probably costs more than my weekly grocery budget. She's been full of expensive surprises lately. New clothes, new attitude, new excuses for working late. "Landon, are you awake?" Her voice cuts through the darkness like a rusty knife. Hard to sleep when the temperature in here could preserve meat. I mutter, not bothering to turn toward her. "We need to talk about this attitude of yours." Ah, here we go. The nightly ritual where my wife explains how everything wrong with our marriage stems from my mysterious character flaws. I've heard this symphony before, and frankly, the orchestra's getting tired. My attitude? I prop myself up on one elbow, squinting at her silhouette in the dim light filtering through our bedroom curtains. "Mira, you've been treating me like I have some contagious disease. When I try to touch you, you flinch. When I suggest we spend time together, you suddenly remember urgent work projects. But sure, let's discuss my attitude." She sighs with the dramatic flair of a soap opera actress. "You're being paranoid. I've been under tremendous pressure at work. Adrian has been pushing the entire team harder than ever, and the Henderson account alone requires—" "Adrian." I can't keep the edge from my voice. "Your boss seems to require a lot of evening consultations lately." That's exactly what I mean about your attitude. You're suspicious and jealous for no reason. Adrian Valahurst is a professional mentor, nothing more. Adrian Valehurst. The name rolls around my brain like a marble in a tin can. 45 years old, silver-haired, drives a Tesla that costs more than most people's houses. He owns Valahurst Communications, the city's most prestigious public relations firm, where my wife works as a senior account executive. From what I've gathered during the rare occasions Mira actually talks to me, Adrian is the kind of man who wears $1,000 suits and speaks in perfectly crafted sound bites. Right. Professional mentor. Is that what we're calling it? Mira sits up abruptly, and I can feel her glare even in the darkness. "I can't have this conversation with you when you're being irrational. Maybe you should consider therapy or anger management." And there it is, the classic Mira maneuver. Take any legitimate concern I might have and flip it back on me like a pancake. Suddenly, I'm the problem. I'm irrational. I need professional help. You know what, Mira? Maybe you're right. Maybe I do need help figuring out why my wife of 8 years suddenly acts like I'm radioactive waste. She flops back down with an exaggerated huff. "I'm going to sleep. We'll discuss this when you're ready to be reasonable." Reasonable. I stare at the ceiling, counting the shadows cast by our neighbor's security light. When did wanting basic affection from my spouse become unreasonable? When did asking questions about her sudden personality transplant become irrational? The next morning arrives with all the warmth of a tax audit. Mira's already gone by the time I drag myself to the kitchen, leaving behind only the lingering scent of that new perfume and a coffee mug in the sink. No note, no goodbye, just the echo of her heels clicking across our hardwood floors at 6:30 in the morning. I pour myself coffee from the pot she made, at least she still does that, and check my phone. 3 missed calls from Eddie Martinez, my best friend since college, and the only person who still tells me the truth without sugarcoating it. Eddie answers on the first ring. "Landon, buddy, you sound like someone ran over your dog." Don't have a dog, just a wife who's apparently allergic to my presence. Still giving you the deep freeze treatment? The Arctic Circle is warmer than my bedroom these days. I settle into my kitchen chair, the same one I've occupied for morning coffee for the past 5 years. Everything looks the same, but nothing feels right. She's got a new explanation now. Apparently, I need therapy for being suspicious. Suspicious of what? Her boss, Adrian Valahurst. She's been working late 3 nights a week, and somehow every conversation leads back to what Adrian thinks, what Adrian wants, what Adrian needs. Eddie's quiet for a moment. In the background, I can hear the familiar sounds of his auto repair shop, pneumatic tools and classic rock. Eddie owns Martinez Automotive, and he's got the kind of practical wisdom that comes from fixing things that are actually broken. Landon, let me ask you something, and I want you to think before you answer. Do you trust your gut? What do you mean? I mean, when you strip away all the gaslighting and explanations and excuses, what does your instinct tell you? I close my eyes and let myself feel what I've been trying to rationalize away for months. The distance, the secretiveness, the way she lights up when her phone buzzes but quickly turns it face down when I'm around. The new clothes, new perfume, new vocabulary full of phrases like synergy and strategic positioning. My gut tells me I'm married to a stranger, then trust that and start paying attention to the details. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. After Eddie hangs up, I sit in my kitchen, drinking coffee that tastes like betrayal, and staring at the refrigerator covered with photos from happier times. There's one from our honeymoon in Cabo, Mira laughing at something I said, her arms wrapped around my waist like she never wanted to let go. That woman feels like a character from a book I read years ago, familiar but fictional. My phone buzzes with a text from Mira. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. No explanation, no apology, just a flat statement of fact, like she's informing me the weather will be cloudy. I text back, everything okay? 3 dots appear, disappear, then reappear. Finally, fine, just busy. Fine. The most loaded word in the married man's vocabulary. Fine means nothing is fine, but she's not going to explain why. Fine means I'm supposed to accept whatever scraps of information she throws my way and be grateful for the privilege. That evening, I'm heating up leftover pizza when I hear voices in our backyard. Our house backs up to the Hendersons' place, and sound carries easily between our properties. Usually, it's just Tom Henderson grilling burgers or their kids playing in the pool. Tonight, it's different voices, female, animated, gossipy. I recognize them immediately. Sam Chen and Gina Torres, Mira's closest friends and fellow executives at Valahurst Communications. They're sitting on the Hendersons' deck, apparently having drinks with Janet Henderson. I'm not naturally a sneaky person, but something about their tone makes me step onto my back porch and listen. Sue me. When your wife treats you like classified information, you start looking for intelligence wherever you can find it. Can't believe she's still playing house with him. Sam's voice carries clearly across the yard. I know, right? That's Gina, her voice sharp with wine and gossip. I mean, Mira's got Adrian completely wrapped around her finger, and she's still pretending everything's normal at home. My pizza suddenly tastes like cardboard. I set the plate down and move closer to the edge of my deck, staying in the shadows. How long has this been going on? Janet Henderson asks. I can picture her leaning forward, hungry for details. Janet collects neighborhood gossip like some people collect stamps. Months, Sam replies. Started right after the Morrison campaign launch. Adrian was so impressed with her presentation that he asked her to stay late for a private consultation. Next thing you know, they're having these intense strategy sessions that somehow require hotel suites. Hotel suites? Janet's voice rises with excitement. The Hilton downtown, Gina confirms. Executive level, Mira showed me photos of the view from the 32nd floor. Said Adrian wanted a neutral space for brainstorming without office distractions. They all laugh, and the sound hits me like a slap. These women, who've been to my house for dinner parties, who've celebrated holidays with us, are discussing my wife's affair like it's entertainment. "What about Landon?" Janet asks. "Does he know?" "Are you kidding?" Sam's voice drips with disdain. Mira's got him sleeping on the couch, convinced that he's the problem. She tells him he's paranoid and jealous, and he actually believes it. Meanwhile, Adrian's got a permanent suite reservation. "Poor guy," Gina adds, but she doesn't sound sympathetic. She sounds amused. Mira says he's become completely pathetic, always asking questions, trying to initiate intimacy. She can barely stand being in the same room with him. I grip the deck railing so hard my knuckles turn white. The casual cruelty in their voices, the way they discuss my humiliation like it's a television show, it's almost worse than the confirmation of what I already suspected. "Well, at least she's happy," Janet says. "Adrian's quite the catch. Successful, sophisticated, wealthy, much more suitable than a guy who fixes air conditioners for a living," Sam finishes. "I mean, Landon's nice enough, but he's so ordinary." Adrian moves in circles Mira belongs in. Art galleries, charity galas, wine tastings at $500 a bottle. "When's she going to leave him?" Janet asks. "After the annual gala next month," Gina explains. "Adrian's being honored for his contributions to the arts, and Mira's organizing the entire event. She wants to make sure everything goes perfectly before she makes any major life changes." "Smart," Sam agrees. "Establish herself professionally, then handle the personal stuff. Very strategic." They continue talking, but I've heard enough. I walk back into my house, leaving my pizza on the deck for the raccoons. My hands are shaking, not with sadness, but with something much more dangerous. Clarity. For months, I've been questioning my sanity, wondering if I was imagining problems that didn't exist. Mira had me convinced that I was paranoid, jealous, emotionally unstable. She'd turned my legitimate concerns into character flaws, my reasonable questions into evidence of my inadequacy. But I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was just married to a woman who'd decided I wasn't good enough for her upgraded lifestyle. I pour myself a whiskey, the good stuff I've been saving for special occasions, and sit in my living room thinking, Mira wants to play games? She wants to manipulate and gaslight and humiliate me while her friends laugh at my expense? Fine. But she's about to learn that ordinary guys who fix air conditioners sometimes know a thing or two about pressure systems. And right now, she's about to experience what happens when the pressure gets turned up full blast. I smile for the first time in months. My wife wants excitement. She wants drama. She wants to see what happens when her carefully controlled narrative gets disrupted. Game on, sweetheart. Game on. The next morning, I wake up with the kind of clarity that comes from finally accepting an unpleasant truth. Mira's already gone. Another early morning at the office. Another day of strategic planning with Adrian. I pour my coffee and start making a list. First item, information gathering. If my wife wants to treat our marriage like a covert operation, then I need to start thinking like an intelligence analyst. Lucky for me, 8 years of marriage means I know her habits, her passwords, her hiding spots better than anyone. I start with her laptop, the one she leaves at home because work security protocols require her to use only office computers for client files. Right. I boot it up and try her usual password, Adrian 2024. Too obvious, and it doesn't work anyway. I try a few variations before hitting on Mira V 2024, Mira Valahurst. She's already practicing her new name. The laptop opens like a treasure chest. Email accounts, social media, photo galleries, everything I need to understand exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. What I find makes my earlier anger seem quaint. There are hundreds of photos. Mira and Adrian at restaurants I can't afford. Mira and Adrian at art gallery openings. Mira and Adrian at wine tastings, charity events, private parties with people whose names I recognize from the society pages. In every photo, Mira looks radiant, sophisticated, transformed into someone I barely recognize. But it's the emails that really tell the story. Months of correspondence between Mira and Adrian, starting professional and gradually becoming personal, then intimate, then explicitly planning their future together. They discuss my situation like I'm a minor inconvenience to be handled delicately. Landon's becoming increasingly suspicious, Mira wrote 3 weeks ago. I think we need to be more careful about timing. Adrian's response. Don't worry, darling. After the gala, we'll have everything in place. The partnership papers will be signed, your promotion will be official, and we can handle your domestic situation with minimal disruption. Domestic situation, that's what I am now. Not her husband, not the man she promised to love and honor, just a domestic situation requiring management. I screenshot everything and email copies to a new account I create specifically for this purpose. Then I dig deeper, looking for the smoking gun that will give me leverage. I find it in her deleted files folder, a document titled Post-Gala Transition Plan. It's a detailed timeline for dismantling our marriage, complete with legal strategies, financial arrangements, and talking points for mutual friends. According to this document, I'm going to be blindsided at the perfect moment, when I'm emotionally vulnerable and socially isolated. The plan is elegant in its cruelty. After the gala, where Mira will be publicly celebrated for her professional success, she'll return home and inform me that our marriage is over. She's already consulted with a lawyer, already identified which assets she wants, already crafted a narrative that paints her as the victim of an increasingly unstable and controlling husband. Landon has become emotionally abusive, reads one section of her prepared statement. His jealousy and paranoia have made our home environment toxic. I've tried therapy and counseling, but his behavior continues to escalate. Emotional abuse, toxic environment, escalating behavior. She's going to destroy my reputation along with my marriage, ensuring that our mutual friends side with her while I'm left looking like the villain. I print everything and lock the copies in my workshop safe, then clear the laptop's history and shut it down. Mira will never know I was here, but now I have ammunition. My phone rings. Eddie. How's the domestic situation this morning? He asks, and I can't help but laugh at the unintentional echo of Adrian's email. Clarifying rapidly, listen, I need to ask you something, and I want your honest opinion. Shoot. If someone was planning to screw you over completely, destroy your reputation, take your assets, humiliate you publicly, would you warn them you were onto their plan, or would you let them think they had the element of surprise? Eddie's quiet for a moment. Landon, what did you find? I give him the abbreviated version, the photos, the emails, the transition plan. When I finish, he whistles low. Brother, that's not just cheating. That's calculated destruction. She's not just leaving you, she's trying to make sure you never recover. So what would you do? I'd make sure she was the one who never recovered. But I'd be smart about it. No evidence, no witnesses, nothing that could come back on me legally. I'm not looking to break any laws, Eddie. I just want justice. Justice and revenge aren't the same thing, but sometimes they rhyme. You want my advice? Beat her at her own game? She's planning a public humiliation at this gala thing? Turn it around on her. Make her the one who gets blindsided. After we hang up, I spend the rest of the day researching Adrian Valahurst and his company. What I find is interesting. Valahurst Communications is successful, but it's also built on a foundation of carefully managed image and strategic relationships. Adrian's reputation is everything in his business. One major scandal could topple his entire empire. I also research his wife, Selene Valahurst. 41 years old, former model turned philanthropist, known for her icy beauty and sharp intelligence. She sits on the boards of 3 major charities and has a reputation for destroying anyone who crosses her. Interestingly, she and Adrian maintain separate social media accounts and rarely appear together in public anymore. That evening, Mira comes home at her usual time, late enough to avoid meaningful conversation, early enough to maintain the pretense of a normal marriage. She's carrying takeout from that trendy bistro downtown, the one that charges $30 for a sandwich. "Thought you might be hungry," she says, setting the bag on our kitchen counter. "I got you the turkey club. It's a peace offering, or maybe guilt management. Either way, I accept it gracefully. Thanks. How was your day?" "Busy. The gala planning is consuming everything. Adrian wants every detail perfect." "I'm sure he does. When is it again?" "Next Friday, 8 o'clock at the Grand Ballroom downtown." She pauses, then adds casually, "You're invited, of course. I put you down as my +1. Of course she did. She wants me there to witness her moment of triumph, completely unaware that I'll be walking into her carefully planned ambush. The thought of her confidence, her certainty that she's controlling every variable, makes me smile. "Wouldn't miss it," I tell her. "I'll even rent a tuxedo." She seems surprised by my enthusiasm. "Really? I thought you hated those kinds of events." "I do, but this one sounds special, career-defining, you might say." That night, after Mira falls asleep, I start phase 2 of my plan. I create a fake social media account and begin following the key players in Mira's professional circle. Adrian, Celine, the major clients, the board members of Valhurst Communications. I study their posts, their connections, their public personas. Then I make my first move. I send a private message to Celine Valhurst from an anonymous account. "Thought you should know your husband has been spending company funds on hotel suites for personal entertainment. The Hilton downtown keeps detailed records." I don't expect an immediate response, but I get one within an hour. "Who is this?" I type back, "Someone who believes in fairness. Check the executive expense reports for the past 3 months. Look for charges under client consultation venues." Then I log off and go to bed, sleeping better than I have in months. The next few days pass in a strange calm. Mira continues her routine of early departures and late arrivals, but I notice subtle changes. She's more anxious, checking her phone constantly, taking calls in the other room. Something's happening at work, and it's making her nervous. On Thursday evening, she comes home looking frazzled. "Everything okay?" I ask, not because I care about her stress, but because I want to gauge how my message to Celine is rippling through the office dynamics. "Just work stuff. Adrian's been in meetings with the board all week, some kind of internal audit." "Audit? That sounds serious." "It's probably nothing, just routine financial review." But her voice lacks conviction. That night, I execute phase 3. Using Mira's laptop again, I access her work email and find exactly what I'm looking for: the guest list for the gala. 250 of the city's most influential people, including journalists, politicians, business leaders, and social media influencers. I create a new, anonymous email account and begin crafting a message that will detonate Mira's carefully constructed world at exactly the right moment. But I don't send it yet. Timing is everything, and I want maximum impact. Friday morning arrives with unseasonable warmth. Mira's practically vibrating with nervous energy, rushing around our house like she's preparing for a military operation. "The caterers will be there at 4, she mutters, checking items off a list. "Flowers at 5. Sound system test at 6. Guests start arriving at 7:30. "Sounds like you've thought of everything." She looks at me sharply, as if trying to detect sarcasm, but I keep my expression neutral. "I have to be there early to supervise setup. You can meet me there at 8, right? The address is—" "I've got it. Grand Ballroom downtown, 8 o'clock, black tie." "Right." She pauses at our front door, looking back at me with an expression I can't quite read. For a moment, I think she might be reconsidering her plan, might be remembering the man she married and the life we built together. Then her phone buzzes with a text, and whatever moment of doubt she might have had evaporates. She smiles, the first genuine smile she's given me in months. "See you tonight, Landon. It's going to be a night to remember. After she leaves, I sit in my kitchen, drinking coffee and thinking about the evening ahead. Mira's right about one thing. It's definitely going to be a night to remember, just not in the way she expects. I spend the day making final preparations. I pick up my rented tuxedo, get a haircut, and review my plan one more time. Everything has to happen in the right sequence, with perfect timing. At 6 o'clock, I send my carefully crafted email to every person on the gala guest list. Tonight's event celebrates professional excellence, but some attendees might be interested to know that Valahurst Communications has been using company resources to fund personal relationships between executives. Documentation available upon request. I don't sign it, and I send it from an untraceable account, but I include just enough detail to plant seeds of doubt and curiosity. Then I get dressed, adjust my tie, and prepare to attend my wife's coronation, which, if everything goes according to plan, will become her public execution instead. The game is about to begin, and for the first time in months, I hold all the cards. The grand ballroom downtown gleams like a jewel box under crystal chandeliers, all gold leaf and marble columns that probably cost more than my annual salary. I arrive fashionably late, 8:15, and pause in the doorway to survey the battlefield. 250 of the city's elite mingle with champagne flutes and practiced smiles, their conversations a symphony of strategic networking and social positioning. The men wear tuxedos that fit like second skins, while the women glide in gowns that cost more than my truck. This is Mira's world now, or at least the world she's trying to enter. I spot her immediately. She's holding court near the silent auction display, radiant in a midnight blue gown I've never seen before. Her hair is swept up in an elegant chignon, and she's wearing diamond earrings that definitely weren't in our jewelry box this morning. She looks sophisticated, polished, transformed, and completely at ease in a way she never is at home anymore. Standing beside her, naturally, is Adrian Valahurst. He's everything I expected and more. Silver-haired, perfectly groomed, wearing a tuxedo that probably has its own zip code. He has his hand on the small of Mira's back in a gesture that's intimate without being obvious, proprietary without being crude. To anyone watching, they look like the perfect power couple. What's more interesting is what I don't see. Celine Valahurst is nowhere near her husband. Instead, she's across the room, holding her own court near the bar, surrounded by a different group of admirers. She's stunning in an ice queen way, wearing a white gown that makes her look like a vengeful angel. When she laughs at something, one of her companions says, it's sharp and predatory. I make my way through the crowd, nodding to acquaintances and accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. Several people give me curious looks. I'm clearly not part of their usual social circle, but my tuxedo and confident stride buy me temporary acceptance. "Landon!" Mira's voice carries across the room as she spots me. She waves and I can see her calculating the optics of my presence. Having her husband here legitimizes her, makes her appear stable and grounded while she navigates her transition to a new life. I approach their little group, which includes several people I recognize from Mira's work stories. Sam Chen and Gina Torres are there, looking slightly uncomfortable when they see me, probably remembering their conversation in the Hendersons' backyard. There's also a man I don't recognize, tall and lean with predatory eyes and a weak handshake. "Everyone, you remember my husband Landon," Mira says, her voice bright and artificial. "Landon, this is Darius Hunt, our newest senior associate." Darius Hunt. The name clicks into place immediately. This is the man from Mira's emails, the one who's been helping coordinate their strategy sessions and providing alibis for their hotel meetings. He's younger than Adrian, maybe 35, with the kind of aggressive ambition that radiates from his pores like cologne. "Pleasure to meet you," Darius says, gripping my hand just a little too firmly. "Mira talks about you all the time." "All good things, I hope." "Of course." His smile doesn't reach his eyes. "She mentioned you work in climate control?" The way he says it makes my profession sound like janitorial work. I smile back, matching his condescending tone. HVAC systems, actually. I design the infrastructure that keeps buildings like this comfortable. It's all about understanding pressure differentials and knowing exactly where to apply force for maximum effect. Something flickers in Darius's expression, like he's not sure if I'm talking about air conditioning or something else entirely. How fascinating, Adrian interjects smoothly. Mira's told me so much about your work. Essential services, really. The foundation that makes everything else possible. He's being gracious in that practiced way of successful men who've learned to charm everyone they meet. But there's something else in his manner, a subtle tension that suggests he's not entirely comfortable with my presence. Speaking of foundations, I say, I heard there's been some kind of audit at your company recently. Everything solid, I hope? The effect is immediate. Adrian's smile tightens almost imperceptibly, while Mira shoots me a warning look. Sam and Gina exchange glances, and Darius suddenly finds his champagne glass fascinating. Just routine financial review, Adrian says carefully. Nothing that affects our day-to-day operations. Good to hear. Mira's been a little stressed about it. I haven't been stressed, Mira says quickly. Just busy with gala preparations. Of course, this is quite an event. You must be very proud of what you've accomplished. I let my gaze drift around the room, taking in the opulent decorations, the perfectly orchestrated atmosphere, the careful choreography of wealth and power. Then I look back at Adrian with innocent curiosity. I imagine events like this require significant investment. Catering, venue, entertainment. It must run into 6 figures easily. The company considers it a worthwhile expense, Adrian replies, but there's a slight edge to his voice now. Building relationships with key stakeholders is essential to our business model. Absolutely. And I'm sure the board appreciates the return on investment. Speaking of which, where might I find Mrs. Valehurst? I'd love to thank her for including me tonight. The temperature around our little group drops several degrees. Mira's face goes pale, while Adrian's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Celine's around somewhere, he says vaguely. Probably networking with the Arts Council members. I'll find her later then. I turn to Mira with my most loving smile. Darling, would you mind getting me another champagne? I'd like to chat with Adrian about business strategy. It's a test, and we all know it. In the old days, Mira would have rolled her eyes at my transparent attempt to assert dominance. Tonight, she's caught between her role as dutiful wife and her desire to protect Adrian from whatever I might say. I'll get it, Darius volunteers quickly, clearly wanting to escape the growing tension. Thanks, but I asked my wife. I keep my tone light, but everyone understands the underlying message. Mira forces a smile. Of course, I'll be right back. As she walks away, I notice Adrian watching her with barely concealed hunger. It's the look of a man who considers her his property, temporarily on loan to an inconvenient husband. She's remarkable, isn't she? I say, conversationally. 8 years of marriage, and she still surprises me. Mira's certainly talented, Adrian agrees carefully. Oh, she's full of talents I'm still discovering. Just this week, I learned she's become quite the photographer. Hundreds of pictures on her personal devices, art galleries, restaurants, private parties. She's documented quite a social education. Adrian's champagne glass freezes halfway to his lips. He's smart enough to understand the implication. I've seen the photos of him and Mira together. Photography can be a rewarding hobby, he says finally, especially when you have such interesting subjects, though I imagine some photos are more private than others, professional discretion and all that. We stare at each other for a moment, 2 men who understand exactly what's being discussed without saying it directly. Adrian's calculating now, trying to determine how much I know and what I plan to do with the information. Landon, he says quietly, perhaps we should speak privately sometime. There might be some misunderstandings that could benefit from clarification. I'd like that. Though I think tonight might not be the best time for private conversations. Too many people around, too many potential witnesses to whatever we might discuss. Before Adrian can respond, a commotion near the bar draws our attention. Celine Valahurst is approaching our group, and she's not alone. She's accompanied by two men in expensive suits who have the unmistakable bearing of lawyers or accountants. "Adrian," she says, her voice carrying clearly across the surrounding conversations. "I need to speak with you." Her tone could freeze champagne. Everyone within earshot turns to watch, sensing drama in the way that wealthy people always seem to detect scandal. "Celine, darling, can't this wait? We're in the middle of—" "No, it can't wait." She turns to me with a smile that's sharp as broken glass. "You must be Landon Keyston. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. Fascinating things. I understand you have quite an eye for detail. Very observant." The way she says it makes it clear she knows exactly who sent her that anonymous message about Adrian's expense reports. But instead of being angry, she seems almost amused. I try to pay attention to what's important. How refreshing. Most people are so self-absorbed they miss what's happening right in front of them. She glances meaningfully at Adrian, then at Mira, who's returning with my champagne and looking increasingly nervous. "Celine," Adrian says again, "this isn't the time or place. On the contrary, this is exactly the time and place." She turns to address the growing circle of onlookers. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make regarding Valahurst Communications." The conversations around us die as people sense something significant happening. Mira arrives at my side, her face pale, clearly understanding that whatever's about to happen will destroy her carefully laid plans. "As of Monday morning," Celine continues, "I'll be assuming control of Valahurst Communications. The board met in emergency session this afternoon and voted unanimously to accept my husband's resignation." The silence that follows is deafening. Adrian's face goes through several colors before settling on a sickly gray. "Celine, you can't—" "I can, and I have. It seems there were some irregularities in company expense accounts. Personal charges disguised as business expenses, hotel suites, expensive dinners, jewelry purchases, all funded by company money and claimed as client entertainment." She's looking directly at Mira now, and her smile is absolutely predatory. "Of course, we'll be conducting a thorough investigation to determine which employees were aware of these irregularities. Anyone found to have participated in or benefited from the misuse of company funds will face immediate termination and possible legal action." Mira's champagne glass slips from her fingers and shatters on the marble floor. The sound echoes through the ballroom like a gunshot. I step forward and take Celine's hand, raising it to my lips in an old-fashioned gesture that draws every eye in the room. "Mrs. Valhurst," I say loudly enough for everyone to hear, "congratulations on your new position. I'm sure you'll bring much-needed integrity to the company." She doesn't pull her hand away. Instead, she steps closer, creating an image that will be burned into every observer's memory: the wronged wife and the betrayed husband, united in their moment of triumph over the people who tried to destroy them. "Thank you, Landon. I look forward to working with people who understand the value of loyalty and honesty." Behind us, I can hear Mira's sharp intake of breath and Adrian's muttered curse. But I don't turn around. Instead, I offer Celine my arm. "Would you care to dance? I think the evening's entertainment is just beginning." As we walk toward the dance floor, leaving chaos and whispered conversations in our wake, I catch a glimpse of Mira's face. She looks like someone who just watched her entire world collapse in slow motion, which, of course, is exactly what happened. The game has begun, and I'm no longer playing defense. The dance floor becomes our stage, and every pair of eyes in the grand ballroom follows us as Celine and I move to the center. The orchestra, oblivious to the drama unfolding, continues playing a waltz that provides the perfect soundtrack for what's about to become the most talked about moment in the city's social calendar. Celine moves with the grace of someone born to command attention. Her hand rests lightly on my shoulder while I guide her through the steps, and we must make quite a picture. The betrayed spouses, united in their moment of revenge, dancing while their cheating partners watch in horror. "You realize," she murmurs as we turn, "that you've just made yourself the most interesting man in this room." I was hoping for that effect, though I have to admit your timing was perfect. How long have you known about Adrian and Mira? Months. I've been building a case, gathering evidence, preparing for exactly this moment. Her smile is sharp as winter. Your little anonymous tip simply accelerated my timeline. I hope I didn't complicate your plans. On the contrary, having you here playing the role of the dignified husband adds a delicious layer of drama to the whole affair. Look around. Everyone's trying to figure out if we're conspirators or if this is pure coincidence. I glance over her shoulder and see that she's right. The entire ballroom has become a theater, with us as the lead actors and everyone else as a captivated audience. Mira stands frozen near the shattered champagne glass, her face a mask of shock and growing panic. Adrian looks like he's trying to decide whether to flee or attempt damage control. What happens now? I ask, as we execute a perfect turn. Now we let them squirm while we enjoy ourselves. Adrian's finished. The board already has enough evidence to destroy him completely. His reputation, his business, his social standing, all gone. As for your wife, what about her? That depends on how smart she is. She can distance herself from Adrian and hope to salvage something from the wreckage, or she can go down with his ship. Either way, her career at Valahurst Communications is over. The music swells, and Celine leans closer. To anyone watching, it must look intimate, conspiratorial. Tell me, Landon, what did you hope to accomplish tonight? Simple revenge or something more sophisticated? It's a good question. When I started this plan, I thought I wanted justice, to expose Mira's betrayal and make her pay for the months of gaslighting and humiliation. But standing here, watching her world crumble in real time, I realize my motivations have evolved. I wanted her to understand what it feels like to be blindsided by someone you trust, I say finally, to experience the same shock and helplessness she was planning to inflict on me. And now that you're getting exactly that? I consider the question as we dance, studying Mira's face across the room. She's in animated conversation with Darius and Sam, clearly trying to formulate some kind of response to the unfolding disaster. But there's panic in her movements, desperation in her gestures. Now I want to make sure she never has the chance to do this to anyone else. Celine's laugh is like silver bells with razor edges. "Oh, I do like you. Most men would be satisfied with exposing the affair. You're thinking strategically." I learned from watching my wife plan my destruction. She was very thorough. "Show me." The music ends, but instead of releasing me, Celine takes my arm and guides me toward the edge of the dance floor. We're still the center of attention, still playing our roles as the evening's most compelling drama. "I need to retrieve something from my car," I tell her. "Evidence that might interest you. Lead the way." We walk through the ballroom together, and the crowd parts before us like we're royalty. I can feel the weight of hundreds of stares, the electricity of whispered speculation. Behind us, I hear Mira call my name, but I don't turn around. The hotel's parking garage is a stark contrast to the opulent ballroom, concrete and fluorescent lights instead of marble and crystal. I lead Celine to my truck and retrieve the folder of documents I printed from Mira's laptop. "What am I looking at?" she asks as I hand her the papers. Mira's transition plan, a detailed timeline for leaving me, complete with legal strategies and character assassination tactics. She's been planning this for months. Celine scans the documents, her expression growing more predatory with each page. When she reaches the section about emotional abuse allegations, she actually laughs. She was going to destroy your reputation to cover her tracks. Clever, but sloppy. These emails are admissible evidence if she tries to proceed with any of these accusations. There's more. I show her the photos, the expense reports, the documented timeline of Adrian's company-funded affair. Everything you need to make sure they both face consequences. Thorough. I'm impressed. She hands the documents back to me. The question now is what you want to do with this information. What do you mean? You have enough evidence to destroy them both completely. Mira's career, her reputation, her financial security. You could eliminate all of it. But revenge is a dish that's best served with precision. Too much force and you look vindictive. Too little, and they might recover. Before I can respond, the garage elevator dings, and Darius Hunt steps out. He looks around nervously before spotting us near my truck. "Landon," he calls, approaching with the kind of false confidence that comes from desperation. "We need to talk." Selene raises an eyebrow. "Friend of yours?" "Mira's accomplice. He's been helping coordinate their hotel meetings." "How delightfully convenient." She steps back slightly, positioning herself to observe while staying out of direct confrontation. Darius reaches us, slightly out of breath from his rush to catch up. His tuxedo is rumpled, and there's sweat on his forehead despite the garage's cool temperature. "Look, I don't know what game you're playing up there, but you need to stop. You're embarrassing Mira, and you're making everyone uncomfortable." "Am I? I thought I was just enjoying a dance with Mrs. Valhurst. You know what I mean. This whole innocent husband act. We all know you've been suspicious and jealous for months. Mira told us about your behavior, your accusations, your paranoia." "Did she? What exactly did she tell you?" Darius glances at Selene, clearly uncomfortable discussing personal details in front of a stranger, but too agitated to stop himself. "She told us you've been checking her phone, following her, making wild accusations about her relationship with Adrian. She's been afraid to be alone with you." "Afraid of me?" I let genuine surprise color my voice. "That's interesting. When exactly did she express these fears?" What do you mean?" "I mean, if Mira was genuinely afraid of her husband, wouldn't she have documented that fear? Police reports, maybe? Complaints to friends or family? Evidence of this alleged paranoid and controlling behavior?" Darius's confidence wavers. She didn't want to make things worse." "Or maybe," Selene interjects smoothly, "she didn't document anything because there was nothing to document. Maybe the paranoid and controlling behavior exists only in carefully crafted emails and strategic conversations." "Who are you?" "I'm the woman whose husband has been embezzling company funds to pay for hotel suites with your colleague. I'm also the woman who now controls Valhurst Communications and will be conducting a very thorough investigation into who knew what and when." The color drains from Darius's face. "I didn't know about any embezzlement. Mira said she needed alibis for client meetings." "Client meetings." Selene's voice is arctic. "Is that what you call them? And you provided these alibis out of the goodness of your heart?" "We're friends, colleagues. I was just helping her manage a difficult situation." "A difficult situation being her marriage to the man standing right here?" Darius looks between us, clearly realizing he's walked into a trap but not sure how to escape it. "Landon, look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Mira cares about you, she really does. But she's been under a lot of pressure at work, and Adrian has been very demanding." "Stop." I hold up a hand. "Just stop. I know about the hotel suites. I know about the company credit cards. I know about the transition plan and the character assassination strategy. I know everything, Darius." He staggers slightly, as if I've physically struck him. "You... how?" "Because unlike my wife, I'm actually good at keeping secrets." The question now is what you're going to do with the information that your career at Valhurst Communications is over. Celine steps forward, her presence suddenly intimidating despite her elegant appearance. Mr. Hunt, you have two choices. You can cooperate with our investigation, provide testimony about what you knew and when you knew it, and accept termination with a neutral reference. Or you can continue lying, face potential legal action for your role in the embezzlement scheme, and find yourself blacklisted from every PR firm in the city. I never took any money, but you provided false alibis for someone who was stealing company funds. In legal terms, that makes you an accessory. Darius looks like he might vomit. What do you want me to do? Go back upstairs, I tell him. Tell Mira that her husband knows everything and that her transition plan has been permanently canceled. Tell her that if she wants to discuss our marriage, she can do it honestly, at home, without scripts or strategies. And if she asks what you're planning to do? I smile, and from Darius's expression, it's not a pleasant sight. Tell her I'm just getting started. We return to the ballroom to find chaos barely contained beneath a veneer of civilized conversation. The news of Adrian's downfall has spread through the crowd like wildfire, and everywhere I look, I see clusters of people engaged in urgent, whispered discussions. The social hierarchy of the room has shifted dramatically. Those who were courting Adrian's favor an hour ago are now distancing themselves, while others position themselves to curry favor with Celine. Mira stands near the silent auction display, surrounded by Sam, Gina, and several other Valhurst employees. From their body language, it's clear they're in crisis mode, trying to determine how to salvage their careers from the wreckage of Adrian's empire. When she sees me enter with Celine, her face goes through a series of expressions: shock, anger, fear, and finally, calculation. Excuse me, I tell Celine. I think it's time for a private conversation with my wife. Of course, but Landon? She places a hand on my arm. Remember what we discussed about precision. Too much force, and you become the villain of your own story. I nod and make my way across the ballroom. The crowd parts before me, and I can feel the weight of their attention. Everyone knows something significant is happening, but they're not sure exactly what or how it will end. Mira, I say as I approach her group, we need to talk. Not here, she hisses, glancing around at the watching faces. Not in front of everyone. Then where? Your office? The Hilton downtown? Or maybe we should just wait until after your transition plan goes into effect? The effect is immediate. Sam and Gina exchange alarmed looks, while the other employees suddenly find reasons to be elsewhere. Within moments, Mira and I are alone in our little bubble of tension. I don't know what you think you know. I know everything, Mira. The emails, the photos, the expense reports, the legal strategy. I know about the emotional abuse allegations you were planning to file. I know about the character assassination campaign. I know about your new name, Mira Valhurst. She goes very still, like a deer sensing a predator. You went through my personal files. Your personal files about destroying my life? Yes, I did. Call it self-defense. You had no right. I had no right? My voice rises slightly, and several nearby conversations pause. Mira, you've been planning to systematically destroy my reputation, steal our assets, and paint me as an abusive husband to cover your affair. But I had no right to protect myself? Keep your voice down, she whispers urgently. People are watching. Let them watch. Let them see the real Mira Keyston, the woman who spent months gaslighting her husband while planning his destruction. For the first time in months, I see genuine fear in her eyes. Not the calculated vulnerability she's been performing, but real terror at the prospect of her carefully constructed image crumbling in public. Landon, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can what? Pretend that you haven't been having an affair? Pretend that you weren't planning to frame me as an abuser? Pretend that you haven't been stealing company money to fund your new lifestyle? I never stole anything. No, you just accepted stolen money, jewelry, clothes, dinners, hotel suites, all paid for with embezzled company funds. That makes you an accessory. The color drains from her face as she realizes the legal implications. Adrian said those were legitimate business expenses. Adrian said a lot of things. Unfortunately for both of you, his wife disagreed. Across the room, I can see Adrian in heated conversation with the two lawyers Celine brought. His gestures are becoming increasingly frantic, while they maintain the stone-faced expressions of men delivering very bad news. This is insane, Mira says, but her voice lacks conviction. You're destroying both our lives over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Mira, you wrote a detailed plan for ruining my reputation and stealing our assets. You documented your affair in hundreds of photos and emails. You coordinated alibis with Darius to cover your hotel meetings. Which part of that was a misunderstanding? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. No, it was supposed to happen according to your timeline, with me as the unsuspecting victim. But here's the thing about pressure systems, Mira. When you try to control them artificially, they eventually find their own release point. She stares at me like she's seeing a stranger. What happened to you? You used to be predictable. I used to trust you. That was my mistake. Before she can respond, Darius appears at her elbow, looking like he's about to hyperventilate. Mira, we need to leave. Now. Security is asking questions about the expense accounts, and HR wants to see us first thing Monday morning. What did you tell them? She demands. Nothing, but Celine Valahurst has documentation of everything. Every hotel charge, every dinner, every piece of jewelry Adrian bought you. It's all there, and it's all traceable to company accounts. Mira turns back to me, and for a moment, I see a flash of the woman I married. Vulnerable, frightened, human. But it's quickly replaced by the calculating expression I've come to know so well. What do you want, Landon? Money? The house? What's it going to take to make this go away? I want you to understand what it feels like to have your life destroyed by someone you trusted. I want you to experience the same helplessness you were planning to inflict on me. So this is revenge? This is justice. There's a difference. And what about us? Our marriage? I look at her, really look at her, for what feels like the first time in months. The expensive gown, the borrowed jewelry, the carefully constructed facade of sophistication. Underneath it all, she's still the woman who spent months lying to my face while planning my destruction. Our marriage ended the moment you decided I wasn't good enough for your upgraded lifestyle. Everything since then has just been theater. That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time you looked at me without calculating how to manipulate me? When was the last time you spoke to me without an agenda? When was the last time you treated me like a husband instead of an obstacle to be managed? She opens her mouth to respond, then closes it. We both know the answer. Mira, Darius says urgently, we really need to go. Adrian's lawyers are saying we should all get our own representation. Lawyers? Mira's voice is small, frightened. Embezzlement is a felony, I tell her matter-of-factly. Even if you were just the beneficiary, you could face charges. Adrian's definitely going to face charges. The question is whether you're smart enough to distance yourself from him before he tries to drag you down with him. As if summoned by our conversation, Adrian appears beside us. His earlier composure has completely evaporated, replaced by barely controlled panic. Mira, darling, we need to coordinate our response. My lawyers say, don't. I step between them, and Adrian stops short. Don't call her darling. Don't touch her. Don't even look at her. Your relationship with my wife is over. Landon, you don't understand the complexity of the situation. I understand that you embezzled company money to fund your affair with my wife. I understand that you're about to be arrested. And I understand that if you continue trying to involve Mira in your legal problems, I'll make sure every detail of your relationship becomes public record. Adrian's face flushes red. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm promising you. Stay away from my wife, or I'll destroy whatever's left of your reputation. For a moment, I think Adrian might actually try to fight me. His hands clench into fists, and his breathing becomes rapid and shallow. But then Celine appears at his shoulder, and whatever fight he had in him evaporates. Adrian, she says pleasantly, your lawyers are ready to escort you out. Something about avoiding additional charges? He looks between Celine and me, realizing that he's completely outmaneuvered. Without another word, he turns and walks away, flanked by his legal team. Well, Celine says, watching him go, that was satisfying, though I suspect this is far from over. What happens now? Mira asks, and there's genuine desperation in her voice. Now you go home, I tell her. You pack your things, you find a lawyer, and you figure out how to rebuild your life without destroying anyone else's in the process. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I turn to leave, but she grabs my arm. Landon, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can start over. Start over? I look down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Mira, you spent months planning to frame me as an abuser. You were going to destroy my reputation, steal our assets, and leave me with nothing. And you want to start over? I was confused. Adrian promised me things, made me believe. Adrian didn't make you do anything. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to me. You chose to plan my destruction. Those were your decisions. She releases my arm, and I see tears forming in her eyes. For a moment, I feel a flicker of the old sympathy, the desire to comfort her that defined so much of our marriage. Then I remember the transition plan, the abuse allegations, the months of gaslighting and manipulation. Goodbye, Mira. I walk away, leaving her standing in the wreckage of her carefully planned future. Behind me, I can hear her crying, real tears, not the calculated vulnerability she's been performing for months. But I don't look back. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. The ride home passes in surreal quiet. My truck feels like a sanctuary after the intensity of the ballroom, and I find myself appreciating simple things, the familiar smell of the interior, the comfortable seat worn to fit my body, the classic rock station playing songs from a time when my life made sense. I pull into our driveway at 11:30, noting that Mira's car isn't there yet. She's probably still at the hotel, trying to salvage something from the wreckage or coordinating with Darius and her other colleagues. It doesn't matter. Whatever she's doing, it's no longer my concern. Inside, our house feels different. The same furniture, the same photos on the walls, the same coffee mug in the sink from this morning. But the atmosphere has shifted. For months, this place felt like a battlefield where I was slowly losing ground. Tonight, it feels like home again. I pour myself a whiskey and sit in my living room, thinking about the evening's events. 6 hours ago, I was the oblivious husband, marked for destruction by his ambitious wife. Now, I'm the man who turned the tables so completely that his enemies are facing legal consequences while he sits comfortably in his own home. It should feel like victory, and in many ways, it does. My phone buzzes with a text from Eddie. Saw the news online. You okay? I type back. Better than okay. Justice served. Want company? Tomorrow. Tonight I want to enjoy the quiet. Proud of you, brother. You handled it perfectly. He's right. I did handle it perfectly. No violence, no illegal activities, no behavior that could be used against me later. Just information, timing, and strategic alliances. Mira wanted to play chess with my life, but she forgot that I'm an engineer. I understand systems, pressure points, and how to apply force for maximum effect. At midnight, I hear Mira's car in the driveway. I don't move from my chair, don't turn on lights, don't prepare for confrontation. When she comes through the front door, I'm exactly where she left me this morning, in my kitchen chair, drinking coffee. Except now it's whiskey, and everything has changed. She finds me in the dark, guided by the glow of my phone screen. She's still wearing the midnight blue gown, but it's wrinkled now, and her makeup is smeared from crying. The transformation from sophisticated executive to broken woman is complete. "We need to talk," she says. "Do we? I thought you covered everything in your transition plan." She winces at the reference. "Landon, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry anymore. Anger was what I felt when I thought I was going crazy, when you had me convinced that my suspicions were paranoia. Now I'm just relieved. Relieved. To know I wasn't losing my mind, to know that my instincts were correct, to know that I'm not the problem in this marriage." She sits across from me, and in the dim light, she looks smaller somehow, diminished. "I never meant for things to go this far." "Which things? The affair? The embezzlement? The plan to frame me as an abuser? I never would have gone through with the abuse allegations. That was just insurance, in case you tried to contest the divorce." Insurance. I taste the word like something bitter. "You were going to destroy my reputation as insurance." I was scared. Adrian said you might try to take everything, that I needed to protect myself legally. "So you decided to protect yourself by destroying me." She doesn't answer, which is answer enough. "What happens now?" she asks finally. "Now you face the consequences of your choices. Adrian's facing embezzlement charges. You're probably facing accessory charges. Your career at Valhurst is over, and your reputation in the industry is destroyed. And us? There is no us, Mira. There hasn't been for months. You've just been managing me while you planned your exit strategy. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you touched me without calculating the effect? When was the last time you said you loved me and meant it? When was the last time you looked at me and saw your husband instead of an obstacle to your ambitions?" She's crying again, but these tears feel different from the ones at the hotel. Less calculated, more genuine. "I did love you. I do love you. You love the idea of me, the safety, the stability, the legitimacy I provided while you explored other options. But you don't love me, Mira. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to plan my destruction in such detail." I was confused. Adrian made me feel sophisticated, important. He showed me a world I never knew existed. A world built on embezzled money and lies. I know that now, but at the time, it felt real. It felt like the life I was supposed to have. I finish my whiskey and set the glass down with deliberate care. The life you were supposed to have. Not the life we built together, but the life you deserved instead of being stuck with an ordinary guy who fixes air conditioners. I never said that. You didn't have to. It was in every look, every sigh, every excuse for why you couldn't be intimate with your own husband. You made it clear that I wasn't good enough for the person you wanted to become. So what now? You get revenge, and I lose everything? You lost everything because of your own choices. I just made sure you couldn't take me down with you." She sits quietly for a long moment, and I can see her processing the reality of her situation. The affair is exposed, the money trail is documented, her career is over, and her marriage is destroyed. All the careful planning, all the strategic positioning, all the manipulation, none of it worked. "I'll need time to find a place to stay," she says finally. "Take whatever time you need, but understand that this house, our accounts, our shared assets, they're protected now. You won't be able to execute your transition plan. I signed a prenup. I know I don't have a claim to most of it." "Smart of you to remember that now." She stands up, swaying slightly. Whether from exhaustion, alcohol, or the weight of her situation, I can't tell. "For what it's worth, Landon, I am sorry. Not for leaving. We both know this marriage was over. But for the way I planned to do it. For the lies, the manipulation, the cruelty. You didn't deserve that." It's the first honest thing she's said to me in months, and despite everything, I feel a flicker of the old affection. No, I didn't. But thank you for saying it. She turns to go, then pauses. That woman tonight, Celine. Am I what? Are you involved with her? I consider the question. Celine and I are allies, united by our shared experience of betrayal and our desire for justice. But there's something else there too, a connection forged in the crucible of revenge, a mutual respect born from watching each other execute perfect strategies under pressure. We understand each other, I say finally. Be careful, Landon. She's not what she seems. Neither were you. Mira nods, accepting the truth of that statement. Then she walks upstairs to pack, leaving me alone in my kitchen with my empty glass and my thoughts. Outside, the neighborhood is quiet. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that just a few miles away, the social order of their city was permanently altered tonight. Tomorrow, the gossip will spread. The news will break. The legal consequences will begin. But right now, in this moment, I'm simply a man sitting in his own home, free from manipulation and lies for the first time in months. The pressure that's been building in my chest since this whole nightmare began finally releases, and I can breathe again. My phone buzzes with a text from Celine. Thank you for tonight. You were magnificent. I type back, thank you for the opportunity. It was, educational. Lunch tomorrow? We should discuss next steps. Next steps? Adrian won't go quietly, and Mira might try to salvage her reputation by shifting blame. We should coordinate our response. She's right, of course. Tonight was just the opening move in what will likely be a longer game. But for the first time in months, I'm playing from a position of strength. Lunch sounds perfect, I reply. Upstairs, I can hear Mira moving around, opening drawers, closing suitcases, the sounds of a life being dismantled, of consequences finally arriving. I pour myself another whiskey and raise the glass in a silent toast to the empty room. Game over, I say quietly. And the right side won. Tomorrow will bring lawyers, reporters, and the messy aftermath of tonight's revelations. Mira will try to rebuild her life somewhere else, probably with a new identity and a carefully crafted story about being the victim of circumstances beyond her control. But tonight, justice has been served with precision and style. The people who tried to destroy me are facing destruction themselves, while I sit comfortably in my own home, planning my next move. It's not revenge, it's not even satisfaction. It's simply the natural result of pressure finding its proper release point. And sometimes that's the most beautiful thing in the world. The game is over, and I'm still standing. That's victory enough.